We are here in the parlor at Mackenhouse Museum. It's Wednesday, November 21st, 2012, and I'm here with Celine Lagace. Welcome, Celine.
Good afternoon.
Hello. All right, so one of my first questions is, where did you grow up? And then can you talk a little bit about how you came to live in BC?
Okay, I did grow up in the neighborhood of Quebec City. I was born in 1946 in a little town called Giffard, Giffard, which is about 4 miles away from Quebec City. I did all of my schooling, 12 years at the same school, Académie Sainte-Chrétienne, which were nuns from France. They were very much focused on speaking a very good French. There was no English word tolerated of any kind in school time. And I did, up to grade 12. From there, I went to Hôtel Dieu de Québec and did my 3 years program in nursing. Graduated from nursing in 1967. And the market in Quebec in terms of a job was pretty limited. So I moved to Montreal area and worked for 2 years at Notre Dame Hospital. That was a huge Francophone hospital in Montreal. And as a nurse and as a new grad, it was kind of exciting because there were lots of things happening. I was chosen right as a new grad to work into the new coronary care unit. And it was very frightening in a way because it was the first CCU to be open on the French sector in Canada. And we were following, models from the States. So all of the books, they provided us with the training and everything, but all of the reference material was in English. And that was my first time to realize that if I want to go anywhere, if I want to get further ahead, I really need to learn English. So I put myself through the training, which was in French from physician and school, but all of the reference material was in English. So it was very difficult to get my head around that much new material and trying to master a second language as well. So anyway, I did it, I succeeded, and I worked for 2 years in that unit, proud as I can be. And then I decided I need to learn English, really to master the language. So I went to work into the Eastern Township, which is a beautiful area in between Sherbrooke and Montreal. Absolutely fantastic area. So I did learn English, but from immigrant. I work in a small hospital that was all in English. There was no French speaker at that point in time. And the people I was working with were from everywhere, essentially Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and lots of German people as well. So I guess the fact that I've learned a second language from or with people for whom English was already a second or a third language has left me with the accent that till today I still have. But that's what it is. Anyways, over there I was very ambitious and participated to the expansion of that hospital. So I was there for about 4.5 to 5 years. Had a wonderful time, learned an awful lot, and helped building. That's what I like to do, always create something new and different. But then I was in my late 20s, and it's like, this is not upbeat enough for me. This is a town for older people. And I was very longing to get a little bit more involved with the cultural aspect of things, and I needed a more exciting life. So I went back to Montreal area, met with different people, and met my husband there actually. And because he was not French speaker, is, as mentioned a bit earlier, Russian Orthodox. There was political issues in the province of Quebec in the late 1980, whereby the law became that you needed to speak and read French, and if you could not do that, you could not work in the province. My husband was able to speak some French, but not enough to communicate in writing. Good enough anyway. So he decided to come onto the West Coast. That was August of 1981. Got himself a very good job and came back on Christmas Eve of 1981. We married on the 26th of December and we moved to BC on the 29th of December. And I've been in BC ever since then.
Wow, that sounds like a very interesting journey to get you to BC.
Took a long time.
So how long did you live in BC and where until you actually eventually moved into the Coquitlam area?
We first started out in Burnaby by Burnaby Shopping Mall. So we lived there for about 2 years. We bought a home on Grover Avenue in Coquitlam in 1983. There's been a change in our marital situation. My husband lost his job, had a problem with drinking, and from one thing to the other, we lost everything. So as a nurse and as having worked all along, I've been able to rise again. We got back together. Anyway, I will spare you the detail of that, but it's been a very rocky time for a couple of years, very stressful and unpleasant time. So where did I work? I worked at St. Paul's for 2 years in the cardiac surgical program. After we lost the house in 1985, we moved to to Burnaby by Lougheed Mall Center. So that's the area, and I moved in quite a few different areas in that, different places in that area. And finally came to where I am at right now in January of 1995. And I've been at that location in the Coquitlam town center area since January of 1995.
And you mentioned that you had moved to the Lougheed Mall area.
Yes.
Was that because of lower housing prices, or was it an area that you liked to?
It's an area that I like, which was walking distance. At the time I was working at the Royal Columbian Hospital. It was in between, leaving my husband, and, I had no car, so transportation was very important. So I've lived on Manchester Drive a couple of years. I did live on Horn Street, all within that same area. And I was not owning anything at that time. It was as a renter.
Okay, and now you say you reside by town center?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about if you remember when the town center park actually formed and was made in Coquitlam, the whole stadium there as well? Do you remember that time?
Actually, when I moved in, the stadium was already there. The Lafarge Lake was being developed. It was very still rugged when I moved. The trail was not open from my street, from the end of La Salle Street. We could not get into the trail that way. We had to go the way about and around. So what I have seen is this tremendous change, beautiful, the work that they have done with and around the Lafarge Lake. The stadium has always been there. What is beside that is the play area, and there is an area with all of those concrete things for kids to do, rollerblade and that kind of a thing. That is new as well. The trail, it's amazing. It's such a blessing for me. It's a gift every day to be able to walk out of my complex, cross the street, and I do enter into this beautiful trail. And all I see and all I hear is water going down the creek and birds there in the summertime, lots of them this last summer. It's incredible to have this kind of a wooded area, pristine area in the middle of the city. And why do I like so much this area? It's walking distance to everything. Shopping is nearby. Like, I don't have to rely onto a car. It's a beautiful area to live in. It still is expanding. I think I do have some concern when I see all of the new high rises everywhere. It's like, what are we trying to do here? There's about 15 new high rises in the last 4 years alone. But I mean, we call it progress, so I will not be the one to stand in between. That's just the way it is.
All right, so when you moved into BC and eventually into the Coquitlam area, you had just recently learned your English. Did you form an alliance or join any Francophone groups here in BC?
No, and that's interesting. You should be asking that question. When I did, after I retired in 2007, I was really wanting to go back to my roots. And the reason I came as a volunteer with the McKin House, it was with this idea behind in my mind that I would finally get connected to the French-speaking community. And it's amazing to realize I am the only French speaker. So, you know, I do the tour and I am always delighted when there are French speakers in the group I am leading, but there's not much French at all in Coquitlam. What I have got to realize is that it takes all but about one generation for a language to be kind of lost. And this is sad to realize. You know, for me, to keep up with my French speaking, the way I do that is by listening to the news. I always, every day, for all of the years I've been here, watch the news both in French, Radio-Canada, en français, and then in English, CBC. That way I get two different tone, two different take on what's happening in our world. I read magazine in French. Books, not so much, but definitely I stay connected because I think it is important to keep a second language. Like for me, French is the first language. And likewise, if and when I do move back to my roots in the province of Quebec, I will always maintain the English as well because I think it's important. And now that I am retired and I have a little bit more time on my hands, maybe Spanish would be interesting to pick.
It's a nice third language to choose.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to hear that you listen to the radio and listen to the radio and watch news in French and read French magazines to kind of keep close to your heritage and your roots. Are there other ways that you also try to keep your Quebecois ties? Maybe any sort of family traditions that have been passed down or even heirlooms, things like that, that really tie you back to Quebec?
About tradition, it's around Christmas time where I make, la tarte au sucre, la tourtière, the way you do the turkey, like I still do it for my friends here, the traditional way, which they really enjoy. In terms of, I do needle points, I do crochet, I do knit, but it's sporadic in my life, For the last 20 years, I don't think I have done any of the above, right? But at one point, I was pretty good at it, and it was a mean to gift giving. And then it's like, enough of that, no more time, I may or may never go back to it, I don't know. But in terms of tradition, I like to celebrate Christmas the way I remember it from home.
And can you go into a little bit more detail of what a regular family Christmas tradition and family holiday at Christmas time would look like?
Well, at home, Christmas was always celebrated quite an affair. As a child, we used to go to my grandparents' Lagace on Christmas Eve. So it was always something to look forward to go to the Christmas Mass. So you would never, my background is Roman Catholic. So of course, a church was pivotal in the life at that point in time. So we would go to the Christmas Mass, and then there was Le Réveillon. So Le Réveillon, you know, was starting right after the Christmas Mass by 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's, of course, a lot of food, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, a whole bazaar. And that will go on till about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We always almost saw the sun rise on Christmas Day. Then everybody would go home. And home, you know, my grandparents, whom I adored, really, they were almost second parent to me, lived right beside us. So it was not that we had to do a lot of commute. The whole family was within the same area, walking distance from one another. So from there, we would go home, and of course, by then, you are hoping to have received Christmas, you know, gift, but we would not open it till after we had a little bit of a rest. Opening of gift, not much of a gift. It was usually one orange for each one of us, the kids. A chocolate. I mean, we were poor, being brought up, and I don't think I recall any gift giving really other than fruits, chocolate, and maybe a pajama if you were lucky one year. But it was always, you know, utility first, right? But it was not the point of Christmas. The point was to have the fun together. That was the real point of it. And of course, you know, Christmas Day, we were always going for dinner to one of the aunts or uncle. So it was starting with Christmas Eve, and right up till the Epiphany on January the 6th, we were out pretty well every day, eating at one place or the other, because my father's side, he had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. So by the time you go to each and every one of them, you do the math, it's a lot of days. And my mother, on her side, there were 9 children and do the same thing. So it was quite an adventure. By the time you're done, it's like, you know, you don't want to eat turkey or ham. You don't want to see that until Easter. Now, thank you very much.
Did any of your family come from Quebec to BC as well?
No.
So you alone carried on these traditions?
Yes.
Okay. And how have you felt that, how do you feel that carrying on these traditions, how has it gone for you? Has it been a way for you to connect to your past, or for you is it more important to show people here what kind of traditions you have from Quebec?
I think it's a bit of both. I am proud of where I came from. Yeah, I think it's a bit of both.
Okay. Are there any memorabilia or heirlooms, family heirlooms, that you have kept throughout these years?
No, actually.
Or something that you would like to have that you know is still back home in Quebec?
No, my parents divorced in 1968, which from a Roman Catholic background was extremely rare. They were probably the first I know of from all of, you know, my 12 years in school and then my 3 years in nursing program. I have never heard of anyone having divorced. It was something you never heard of, right? And my parents divorced in 1968, and it had been very messy, anyway, the end result is that the home had been sold. The content of the house, my mother destroyed absolutely everything. She did not keep a single thing. And for me at that time, I was not living home. I was in Montreal, which is some 250 miles away from Quebec City. I was just torn, you know, torn between the loss of both parents, not understanding what the hell has happened here, why has this happened, and the nurse in me is trying to save everything, but the material aspect of it eluded me at that point in time. Now I regretted it, you know, because I have absolutely not a thing from the house I grew up in. Not even a silver spoon or anything, nothing. It took me almost 30 years to get some photos that were from my upbringing, because my mother had that. She obviously had not destroyed them, but I only came about them after she passed away. From cleaning, you know, and disposing of things, we came about a big, like one of those big trunk, and there was quite a few things. So it's not true. There is one thing I have from home, which is like a shawl. When I was born, it had been used when I had been baptized. And I have that. That's all I have. And then photographs.
And memories, of course.
Well, yes, you don't forget the memories, you know, but there is no material thing I can hold on to. And you know what that has done for me is not to try to hang on to anything material, because I've learned very young that you don't bring it with you, you know, like it's the people that matter. It's the openness with the people that are important in your life. The rest is kind of nice. Like when I come here and I see all of this beauty of furniture, it's like, oh my God, I wish we had kept some of that from home.
Okay, thank you for that part of your story. We'll move on to a question that's less deep and a little more lighthearted. Since you came to Coquitlam, or even BC, because you were in BC earlier than you had been in Coquitlam, what types of things did you do for entertainment or for fun? I know that now you like to go to the Lafarge Lake Park area and walk around there, but when you first moved to BC, what were some of the entertainment things that you would have done?
We had a lot of very good friends here, lots of theater going, symphony, the VSO has always been very high. And mostly, you know, social function with my network from work, as well as, you know, visiting with friends. I been working full-time and a half as a nurse, so there was not a lot of time for social activities as per se.
Okay. And since coming to BC, were there any fads or popular hairstyles or clothing that you remember from when you first came here? Or any ones that you even participated in yourself?
Well, we were doing quite a lot of plays, actually, you know, at the Columbian. When we had the new intern groups coming in, we were always doing skits. So I enjoyed doing that. That was always a lot of fun and lots of improvisation. With the Healthy Heart program, that is another program located in this very area, we were doing skits for our group of patients as well. So I kind of enjoy doing this kind of activity. Is that what you're looking for?
That's a good response, but I was looking maybe for any type of clothing styles that you've seen change throughout the years, anything that you've really latched onto as a fad, hairstyles that have changed throughout the years.
Well, the hippie years, obviously, I was very much of a hippie, right? So much so that my mother was not very happy with me because it was too different from the expected model. You know, the women in both my family, the Lagace and the Bolduc, are very well put together women, always with jewelry and always very nicely done, you know, hairdo and everything. And for me, it's like I don't want to waste my time or my energy doing that. In the 60s, well, like a lot of the hippies, well, I was wearing long hair and, you know, shabby clothing and defiant, right? This is what kids do when we grow up. And even as a nurse, before then, in 67, it was the Expo in Montreal. And it's the year I was completing my nursing program. So, and it was the year of the very short skirt, and you know, no sleeveless blouse or t-shirt or what have you. Well, that was defiance, super defiance, because I've been brought up that you have to have everything below the knee all of the time. You don't wear pants. That was an absolute no-no. And you know, since I came to BC is when I started wearing pants, and I don't think I've been wearing a lot of dress or skirts ever since then. But it's different from the model I came from, you know. So after the long hair and after this hippie phase, it was what I refer to as the Afro style, which was, you know, the big bushy hair, very curly with heavy perm. Well, I've had that too. It's hard to imagine, but yes, I did. But I never did color my hair. I always remained that way. I never did use makeup like some people did, because to me it's a disguise, so I don't use makeup. And still today I don't use makeup, or very little.
Well, you don't need it, so.
Thank you.
So going back to your mention of Expo 67, just out of my own personal interest, did you go to any of the exhibits?
All of it, and more than once. Oh, that was so exciting. Montreal was in flame, insane. It was, and people were just so happy. It was almost the promise that on this planet it's possible to have peace. And if you know a little bit of the history, June of 1967 had been the 6 Days War in Israel. And it was the first war led by Israel against the Palestinians. And in any case, it was a very dark time. I will never forget that, because it was just a week before I was to write my university exam to complete my program, my 3-year program in nursing. And we were in a reserved area studying, and we were just listening to those news about Israel and the war, thinking, oh my God, is this the end of this planet? What's going on? All of us were so worried about this war. Anyway, it did last 6 days, and that was at the beginning of June, and then it was solved, and obviously not solved with good result, because we are still fighting today as we are talking. It has never been a peace area. So when the expo officially opened, it was like a breath of fresh air, and it was really exciting. So yes, I've been going there a lot. I did enjoy myself immensely and didn't care about sleeping. It was fun, and I took it all in.
Well, good for you. I'm jealous. All right. When you had come from Quebec to BC, you mentioned that you were Roman Catholic growing up. How did you find a church, or did you keep up your Catholic roots when you came here?
I did not keep my Catholic roots.
Okay.
I do believe in God, or some kind of an entity, obviously, all of which we are looking at. It's not a human being who's done that. But what has happened with all that, it was very strict, and I have been very good to practice, but I've seen so many abuse from the priest and from the nun. And I know this is not part of this interview. It has kind of make me just change my mind. So when I was able to make that decision for myself, the church has become less and less important in my life. And it was more about be good to the people you are with. When you say something, mean what you say. And I figure that if I can apply that in my life on a daily basis, I would be able to meet the expectation of this one above a whole lot better than to go to church, you know, once or twice or however often. Anyway, I did drop religion. I'm not practicing. Am I proud of it? No, you know. I would have a whole lot more to say about it, but let's leave it at that.
Okay. Since you've been in BC, were there any world events that impacted your life in any way? Things that happened in the news that maybe affected the way you were living, or were those events something that you would have brushed off?
I think the expo here in 1986 has been very exciting. Certainly having seen the one in Montreal in '67, I had high expectation, and I certainly have not been disappointed. 1986 here was very exciting. It has been well done, it's been a great success, and it was almost the same feeling which had been reproduced again, where it's possible that as a humanity we can live together. You know, and the same feeling came with 2010, you know, with the Olympic. At first, it was a lot of negativism towards, you know, the Olympics. There's a lot of money. You're going to do like we did in Montreal, which we ran such a great deficit, and you know, for 40 years we're going to. So all of the neighing about it, but the end result is it's all very positive. It's been a very exciting time, and it's been a turning point in our history in BC. So I think those two events have changed a little bit the way the population interact towards one another. It has brought a lot of different other community, and I think it's just make us richer to have this kind of a diversity.
Going back to the Expo 86, do you remember the transit line going in for that? And could you talk a little bit about the transit system from that time, and as well as if you remember any specific exhibits from Expo 86?
I don't recall any specific. I know the state one, you know, the globe that they had was very effective. I did enjoy that one. Trying to think of the other one. I was just
I think there was a
impressed.
King Tut exhibit as well.
TELUS has a very good exhibit as well. The Canada had a good one promoting the history of our history. That one was interesting. I am always interested by anything that tell us where we came from, you know, as much as I am interested by those who are thinking of where are we going, you know, like give me a little glimpse of what the future is going to look like. But it's a bit blur because that particular year, I think it was the second time I was separating from my husband, so it was another year of turmoil, and the 86 was just a diversion from it all, you know, and a good opportunity to go out with friends and to go and eat and have a little bit of wine. I love wine.
That's great to hear. You said that you were the only member of your family that had come over to BC. Have you traced any of your other relatives to see where they have gone? Have any of them left Quebec but gone to a different province maybe?
I've kept in touch with all of my immediate family and extended family. Every year I have gone back for a visit. I have two brothers, one in the Quebec area, one in Saint-Sauveur, which is north and west and away from the island of Montreal. So that's my immediate family. But I kept in touch with all of my uncles and aunts on both sides. I mean, this extended family is very important to me. As well as people I went to school with in the nursing program. We were 67 to graduate from the nursing program in 1967. And I've kept in touch with a lot of those people. And that's interesting because last June we had a big convention to celebrate 45 years of our nursing graduation, and we just had an absolute ball. It was so much fun. Over 40 of the people I did my training with did come to that big reunion. And it's, you know, you pick up the conversation just as if we left yesterday. It was so much fun. And actually, it is probably stemming from that reunion where there was this something missing into my heart, you know, like, what am I doing so far away? You know, even after that many years, those people, you know, extended family, immediate family, and those friends, all of a sudden have become so very important, you know, and I really want to go back towards that. And I hope this is going to happen.
All right, and I think this would be my last question.
Okay.
You said that your last name is Lagace and Bolduc is your maternal last name.
Correct.
Can you trace those names back in history and perhaps how far? Do you know how far they go back and when those family members had come to Canada?
Yes, the Lagace family, the first one came to Canada in 1679. So this is as far back as it goes. And they came from an area in France which is the northeast, so La Bretagne. People came in because there was no work for them over there, so that was the reason why they came over here with the promise of a great future. The first legacy settled into the Kamouraska area, which is southeast of the St. Lawrence River. And this area, well, it was farmlands, obviously a spectacular view onto the St. Lawrence River just before it becomes, open to the ocean. Beautiful area. My family grandfather came to Giffard, that would have been in the early 1940s, because onto the farmland there was limitation, not enough work for all of the boys, and so he came to this area. I'm not sure why he had chosen this area as opposed to another one, but Giffard was that. It was a very small community which obviously has grown just like Coquitlam has. And his trade was forgeron, so I'm not quite sure how to translate that. But what it is, it's to make those specialty shoes for the horses.
Okay.
So I don't know how you translate that in English.
I know what you're talking about, and the English word is escaping me too.
Anyway, so en français, on dit il était un forgeron. Alors, there was a lot of work for those people then. My father did work as a forgeron with his father, but then, the business was not so much needed because by now we are into the 40s and horses are not used for transportation anymore. We're using car already by then. So my father started to work at a hospital which is called Saint-Michel-Archange. Well, Stephanie, if ever you go to Quebec, this is a hospital. It's a psychiatric hospital, 6,000 beds. Huge. It's a city within a city. So my father got a job there, worked first of all onto the farmland and from there into the laundry and made a name for himself, from the little he did know, he grew up to be important and to have a vision that as opposed to do the laundry for just this particular building, we can do that for a whole region into, not the lower mainland, but into Quebec. So that is a bit of my history, but 1679 is when the first one came in. Wow. And the hospital I trained from, Hôtel du Québec, was open to public in 1639. Yeah. And it's interesting because that hospital, if ever you go to Quebec City, the front entrance door is still the original door from 1639. It's totally amazing. My mother family, I don't know nearly as much about it, but I know there is a lot of Irish being mixed with French. And this is one of my projects in my retiring years to do the genealogy of my family, because by now, from my mother's side, there were 9, and there's only one of them still alive. And that person is, diagnosed with dementia, so I will not get much of any kind of a history. So I hope to be able, when I go back to the province of Quebec, to connect it again with my cousins and to try to get some of that history and do some genealogy, because I know very little from my mother, other than there is a lot of Irish mixed into it. Mm-hmm. Just like Don was mentioning a bit earlier.
Yeah. I also know Bolduc, and she's from Quebec, but she's also got Irish roots.
Yes.
So yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. And on my mother family, I don't know how this background came about, but they were true musicians. One of her brother, I swear, could have been a master conductor. He was always with classical music and always with opera, and it was always grandiose, whatever he was doing, and oh my God, can the man sing, you know? So that was always very exciting. Another one of her brother was pretty good with, you know, the accordion. So all party that we had gone to in that family, the music was very live and very loud. And very long, till the wee hours in the morning. Lots of fun.
All right, thank you very much for your time today, Celine.
Thank you.